The moment you hear the name Ratchel Martha, you step into a shadow no history book dares illuminate. A silence so deep it suffocates the very air around it. Imagine a child born not with a cry, but with a silence so cold it freezes the blood of the midwife who caught her. So unsettling, she abandoned her calling that day. As if the world itself whispered a warning, those eyes weren't just still. They held the weight of centuries, like something ancient trapped inside a body far too young to understand it. Now hold that image tightly, because what comes next isn't just a tale of a frozen child. It's a spiral into a darkness where time itself unravels, where the living become prisoners to a secret too monstrous for science to admit, where the world you think you know shatters into whispered dread. Ratchel Martha did not grow. She never changed. The years ticked on. The world outside moved relentlessly forward. Children grew, seasons turned, empires rose and fell. But inside that small, isolated home, Ratchel stayed locked in the eternal age of 7, her skin porcelain smooth, unblemished, untouched by the decay of time, a beautiful, grotesque stillness. But it wasn't just her body that refused to age. It was something far darker, something that infected the very air of the house itself, bending reality like a fevered nightmare. Her presence was a poison no one could see, but everyone felt. The family's life cracked under the weight of an invisible pressure. Clocks stopped mysteriously every night at the same exact time. Visitors felt a coldness not born of winter, but from the soul of the house itself, as if the shadows breathed. Her father, once a man of strong mind and will, slipped into a silence deeper than death. Catatonic, trapped in a mind writhing with unseen horrors, her mother's mind unraveled in lullabies twisted into chants no living being should hear. No doctor dared enter that house. The science of the era recoiled from the enigma Ratchel represented. No diagnosis, no explanation, only silence, official and otherwise. The truth was pushed beneath the floorboards of history, buried with the family's sanity. Yet the question remains, gnawing at the edges of reason. What was Ratchel Martha? Why did the world turn away when the impossible stared them down? This isn't just a forgotten story. It's a locked door to a secret that might unravel everything you think you know about life, death, and the space between. They say the doctors refused to examine her, not out of ignorance, but out of a fear that clawed at their very souls, fear of a truth too monstrous to name. Medical men of the 19th century were explorers of flesh, masters of anatomy. Yet Ratchel Martha's case was beyond anatomy. It was a fracture in reality itself. Attempts were made, whispered in the dark. Physicians who approached the home were met with an atmosphere thick with dread, a silence pressing like a vice against their hearts. One doctor reportedly fled the house, muttering warnings about time broken and souls lost. Another vanished without a trace shortly after visiting. No official records survive, only the faint, dark pulse of rumor. The town around them was simple, untouched by industry, but deeply touched by fear. Locals spoke in hushed tones of strange happenings. Windows fogged with icy breath, though no fire burned. Shadows flickering where no light should fall, and a silence that screamed louder than any voice. People stopped visiting the family. Shops turned away when Ratchel's name was mentioned, and the child, forever caught in the trap of frozen youth, watched it all with eyes that seemed to see through time, through flesh, through the very fabric of human frailty. Her voice, when it emerged, was a whisper that carried the weight of centuries, words spoken with a knowing far beyond her years, unsettling truths and dark warnings that twisted the minds of those who heard them. Some say she was a vessel, an ancient force imprisoned in fragile skin. Others claim she was a curse born of forbidden knowledge. But whatever the truth, the house itself became a prison, a tomb, a slow descent into madness where time had no meaning, and death was a distant memory. As the years stretched on like shadows bleeding into night, the house grew darker, its walls soaked in silence and dread. The family's torment became a twisted dance with despair. Neighbors whispered of strange lights flickering through cracked windows, and an unbearable stillness that swallowed entire rooms whole. Ratchel remained a statue of innocence frozen in time, but the weight of her existence bent the very air around her, twisting minds and shattering spirits. Her father, once a proud man, became a hollow shell, locked behind eyes that saw horrors beyond mortal ken, unable to speak or move, trapped in a catatonic prison of fear. Her mother's lullabies, once gentle, morphed into eerie chants muttered to shadows only she could see. The house itself seemed to pulse with a heartbeat not its own. The walls whispering secrets, best left buried. Visitors who dared enter reported a cold so sharp it cut through flesh, a presence lurking just beyond perception, eyes watching from darkness that wasn't quite shadow, an oppressive force that weighed on the soul. Many fled, some never returned, and the town's collective fear grew into a wall of silence, a conspiracy of avoidance, as if naming the truth might awaken a dormant terror better left sleeping. But Ratchel Martha was no ghost, no phantom. She was a living anomaly, a breach in nature's law, a child who held the key to a secret science refused to touch. And in that refusal lies the deeper horror, that some truths are locked away not by accident but by design, because the power behind them threatens to consume those who seek to unveil it. And in the darkest corners of history, there are forces that decide what stories are told, and which ones are buried forever. What happened inside that house was whispered, twisted into rumors, but never truly understood. There were no medical journals, no reports, only fragmented memories and chilling accounts from those who barely escaped the grip of that place. They spoke of time fractures, moments when reality splintered and the world outside seemed distant, as if Ratchel's very existence warped the flow of life itself. Bending days into endless loops of silence and despair, the family was isolated by more than geography. Cut off by the invisible barrier of fear and taboo, visitors dwindled until the house stood abandoned by all but shadows and echoes. The community's collective mind pushed away the impossible, choosing denial over the madness that seeped from those walls. This is how forgotten horrors persist, hidden in plain sight, wrapped in silence, guarded by the very minds terrified to face them. Ratchel herself became a symbol of the unspoken, the embodiment of secrets locked deep beneath polite society's surface, a child who never grew, whose eyes held the knowledge of something ancient and terrible, a warning to those who dare pry too deeply, her presence a testament to the dark boundaries of science and humanity's fragile grasp on reality. This story, this myth, is a mirror reflecting the limits of our understanding, a challenge to the notion that everything can be measured, dissected, and explained. Sometimes the greatest truths lie in what is ignored, in what is feared so deeply, it becomes invisible. And Ratchel Martha remains a silent guardian of those forbidden truths, waiting for the day someone brave enough will unlock the door and confront the darkness within. The silence surrounding Ratchel Martha wasn't just an absence of sound, it was a command, a dark decree issued by powers unseen, insisting that her story remain buried, erased from textbooks, dismissed as folklore or madness. But beneath that enforced quiet lies a deeper conspiracy, one that stretches far beyond a single family or forgotten town. It reaches into the heart of institutions designed to control knowledge, to decide which truths are worthy and which are dangerous. In the shadows of history, science is not always the neutral seeker of facts it claims to be. It can be a gatekeeper, a weapon wielded to maintain order, suppress anomalies that threaten established paradigms. Ratchel's case was the ultimate anomaly, a living paradox that defied every law of biology and physics, and so she was cast out of the narrative, labeled a ghost story, a myth too terrifying to confront openly. But consider this. What if the refusal to study her was not ignorance, but fear? Fear of a truth that could unravel the foundations of what we believe about time, life, and death. A secret so potent it could shift power in ways no ruler or scientist could control. This is the battleground of knowledge and power, where those who hold the keys to truth also hold the power to shape reality itself. And some stories are kept in the dark because they are dangerous weapons disguised as mysteries. Ratchel Martha, stands as a symbol of that forbidden knowledge, the child who refuses to grow not just in body, but in the collective memory of humanity, a warning that some doors should never be opened, yet deep inside, an unspoken challenge. If you dare to look, if you dare to question, you may find yourself pulled into a world where nothing is as it seems, and the price of truth is higher than you ever imagined. The more you dig into the shadows surrounding Ratchel Martha, the more you realize the story is not just about a single child frozen in time. It's about the mechanisms that enforce silence, the systems that erase inconvenient truths. This house, this family, this forgotten girl, they are casualties in a much larger war, a war over what knowledge is allowed to surface, who gets to tell history, and who must remain invisible. Look at the patterns in history. Disappearances, erased records, forbidden research, the kind of things that never make it past closed doors and hushed conversations. Ratchel's story fits here perfectly, a dark puzzle piece in the grand design of institutional control. And it raises the question, how many other truths like hers have been buried? How many phenomena dismissed because they threaten the carefully constructed illusions that keep society comfortable and obedient? Her frozen childhood is more than a medical anomaly. It's a metaphor for the stasis enforced on knowledge itself, a warning that sometimes the price of progress is silence. The more the family tried to live with her condition, the deeper they sank into madness and isolation, and the more the world around them looked away. Unwilling to face what couldn't be explained or controlled, behind every shadow in Ratchel's house lies a question no one dared answer. What happens when time refuses to move? What kind of power holds a child in endless stasis and turns a family into ghosts of themselves? This is not just a story of lost innocence, but of ancient corruption, a crack in reality that hints at something darker lurking beneath the surface of history itself. They say time is the great healer, the force that erodes pain and memory alike. But in Ratchel Martha's world, time was a cage, a cruel prison locking her in a moment no one could escape. This was no natural stasis, but a curse, or perhaps a gift twisted into torment, a living paradox that shattered the laws of nature and sanity alike, and those who touched her life were dragged into a nightmare that stretched beyond reason. Her father's catatonia was not just madness. It was a mind broken by the impossible, a soul trapped in the chasm between what was real and what defied understanding. Her mother's descent into obsession and whispered chants was a desperate attempt to make sense of a world unraveling at the seams. Their home a battlefield between life and death, sanity and the void, with Ratchel at its center, silent and unmoving, a witness and a prisoner all at once. Outside, the town retreated into superstition and fear, their whispers becoming spells to keep the darkness at bay. But darkness has a way of seeping through cracks, twisting into shadows that follow, watching, waiting, a presence that no one dared name. And in that presence lies the deeper terror. Not just the child who never aged, but the force behind her, the secret her silence tried to protect. What if Ratchel Martha was more than a girl? What if she was a living seal, a lock on something ancient and terrible, a gatekeeper to a truth so dark that science and society alike conspired to forget her, and in forgetting, to forget what lay beyond? This is the kind of secret that changes men forever, a dark thread pulling you deeper into the unseen, the forbidden, the dangerously real. There is a moment in every man's life when the comfortable lies he's been told begin to unravel, when the truth claws its way from the shadows and demands recognition. Ratchel Martha is one of those truths, a whisper in the dark that refuses to be silenced, a secret the world tried to bury because it challenges everything we believe about life and death, youth and decay, the fragile line that separates the natural from the unnatural. Her frozen form is a mirror held up to the abyss, reflecting not just a child lost in time, but the very limits of human understanding, the terror of what might lurk beyond the boundaries science can measure. And behind that mirror stands a force so ancient, so potent, that even the brightest minds recoiled in fear, turning away from her case as if denying her existence could erase the shadow she cast. The story is not just about a girl who stopped growing. It's about the cost of forbidden knowledge. The price paid when the veil is lifted on things mankind was never meant to see, and the insidious ways institutions manipulate the narrative, controlling not just what we know, but what we are allowed to question, so that darkness remains hidden, locked away behind layers of silence and denial. Now listen closely, because from here the descent deepens, and I want you to join me in breaking the silence, in naming the unnameable, to claim your place among those who refuse to be blind. Type the phrase, "Eternal Shadow, Frozen Time," twice in the comments. Lock it in, and take the first step into a world where nothing is as it seems, and every secret has a price. Eternal Shadow, Frozen Time. These words are more than just a phrase. They are a key, a declaration that you refuse to remain ignorant, that you're ready to peer beyond the veil where the uncomfortable truths dwell, because Ratchel Martha's story is a gateway into a world ruled by shadows and silence, where every fact is filtered, every narrative shaped by unseen hands, and the line between reality and nightmare blurs. What lies beyond this line is a labyrinth of hidden agendas and institutional manipulation, a realm where knowledge is a weapon and ignorance is enforced by design. Ratchel's frozen youth is a symptom of something far larger, a system built to control, to suppress, and to rewrite history in favor of those who wield power from behind closed doors. Her silence is a warning to those who would dig too deep, to those who dare to question the accepted order. The family's descent into madness wasn't a random tragedy, but a calculated consequence, a demonstration of what happens when forbidden forces are unleashed. And this is the crucial truth. The real horror is not the child who refuses to age, but the darkness that kept her trapped, the corrupting influence that shattered a family and erased a story from existence. And now you carry that burden too. The knowledge that history is riddled with secrets kept by those who understand the power of silence, that the greatest monsters are not always flesh and blood, but the systems and lies that manipulate perception and control the flow of truth. And if you continue this journey, be warned. The deeper you go, the more dangerous the revelations become. The house where Ratchel Martha lived wasn't just a home. It was a prison for forbidden truth, its walls soaked in despair and echoes of a time warped beyond understanding, every creak and shadow telling a story science refused to write. A story of a child suspended between life and death, innocence and something far darker, and the family trapped in the wake of her existence, torn apart by forces they could neither name nor fight. Her father's silence was a monument to the unspoken terror, his mind fractured by what he witnessed but couldn't explain. Her mother's whispered chants a fragile attempt to grasp the ungraspable, the very air thick with a presence that wasn't human, something ancient and watchful, guarding a secret that could unravel the fabric of reality itself. This house was a threshold, a thin line between worlds, a place where time stalled and the natural order faltered. Visitors who dared enter felt the weight of that threshold crushing them, an invisible force pressing down, suffocating reason and hope alike, and many fled with stories too chilling to tell, or worse, disappeared without a trace, swallowed by a silence that devoured everything. The town turned away, complicit in the erasure, the collective mind choosing blindness over madness, denial over truth. Ratchel Martha's existence exposes the fracture beneath civilization's facade, the crack where reality bends and ancient darkness waits patiently for those foolish enough to pry open the door. This is a warning written in flesh and silence, a call to those who seek the forbidden knowledge, a reminder that some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. Behind the silence that surrounds Ratchel Martha lies a deeper darkness, one born not from a single haunted house, but from the very institutions we trust to hold knowledge and truth. These bodies of power decide what is studied, what is remembered, and what is buried forever. And when something like Ratchel appears, a living contradiction that defies explanation, it threatens to unravel their carefully constructed narratives. Science, cloaked in authority and reason, sometimes becomes a tool of suppression, turning away from anomalies that challenge its foundations, labeling them myths or madness, to maintain the illusion of control. And this isn't just about one child who never aged. It's about the countless stories erased by fear and power, the truths silenced to keep society obedient and blind. Every ignored case like Ratchel's is a thread cut from the fabric of reality to keep the whole tapestry from unraveling. Look closer, and you'll see how history is shaped by these decisions. Who is deemed worthy of study, whose pain is acknowledged, and whose suffering is dismissed as superstition. This shaping is an act of control, a psychological cage that keeps minds confined to what is safe and convenient, while the forbidden festers in the dark, growing stronger, waiting for someone to dare the truth and risk everything. Ratchel Martha is the emblem of that risk, the symbol of knowledge too dangerous to face, the child who froze time, but also froze the hearts of those who encountered her, and through her silence, the world was warned. Some truths are not just inconvenient but lethal, and to pursue them is to step into a darkness where the rules are rewritten, and the price may be more than most can pay. There is a hidden pattern in the stories we never hear, the disappearances, the broken families, the unanswered questions that vanish into dust. And Ratchel Martha's tale fits squarely into this pattern, a dark echo of forgotten tragedies carefully scrubbed from official records, her frozen childhood a symbol of the many lives frozen in silence by forces beyond comprehension or mercy. The family's collapse was not an accident but a slow dismantling by unseen hands. The psychological control exerted by the house and whatever ancient power held Ratchel captive was absolute, bending minds and breaking wills, isolating them from reality until nothing remained but shadows of people they once were, and the community around them turned away, trapped in denial or complicit in a pact to forget. This pattern repeats across history. Cases of individuals who defy natural laws erased, their stories twisted into folklore or dismissed as madness. But beneath these tales lies a thread connecting them all, the deliberate suppression of knowledge that threatens to destabilize the status quo, the maintenance of a reality carefully curated to exclude the unexplainable. Ratchel Martha's story is a dark mirror reflecting this truth, a reminder that what is forgotten or denied often holds the greatest power, and those who control the narrative control not just history but the future. So the question remains, how deep are you willing to go? How far will you follow the shadow that begins with a girl frozen in time, but leads to the very heart of ancient corruption and modern manipulation? The silence that cloaks Ratchel Martha's story is thick, suffocating, designed to keep curious minds at bay. But that silence is itself a signal, a beacon for those who know where to look, for those willing to pierce the veil and face what lurks beneath. Because beneath the frozen child lies a network of secrets, of agendas layered so deep that peeling one back reveals only more darkness and deception. Her story is not isolated. It's part of a grander scheme, a psychological control system that operates quietly, invisibly, manipulating what is remembered and what is erased, shaping collective belief to maintain power structures hidden from view. The refusal to study her was no accident, but a calculated move to deny legitimacy to a truth that could dismantle institutions and expose corruption buried beneath centuries of lies. Consider this. The very doctors tasked with understanding and healing human bodies turned away from Ratchel, not because of ignorance, but because of fear, a fear rooted in the unknown, in forces ancient and dark that transcend medical science, and that fear is a weapon wielded by those who control knowledge, ensuring that the forbidden remains forbidden and the curious remain blind. In embracing this truth, you step beyond the ordinary, beyond the safe confines of accepted reality, into a world where knowledge is power and ignorance is submission. Ratchel Martha is a symbol, an invitation, and a warning. Some doors open only once, and the darkness waiting beyond can change a man forever. As you descend deeper into Ratchel Martha's story, you begin to see the threads of ancient corruption weaving through time, a tapestry stained with secrets too dark for daylight. This is not just about a child trapped in time, but about the forces that manipulate existence itself, bending reality to their will, and the institutions that serve as their gatekeepers, suppressing the truth to protect their power. Think of the psychological control systems in place: social, political, scientific, designed to keep minds obedient, unquestioning, and blind to the deeper currents beneath the surface. Ratchel's frozen state is a metaphor for this control. A physical manifestation of knowledge, arrested, life halted, progress stifled by fear and manipulation. Her family's tragedy reveals the human cost of this control: shattered minds and broken spirits crushed under invisible weights. And the town's silence is complicity, a collective denial that preserves the facade while the darkness festers beneath. This pattern repeats across history, a chilling reminder that those who control the narrative also control reality, choosing what to reveal and what to hide. Ratchel Martha is more than a myth. She is a warning carved in flesh and silence, a challenge to those who seek to master themselves and understand the hidden forces shaping our world. And as you walk this path, remember, the truth is a dangerous weapon, and those who wield it must be prepared for the price it demands. Every shadow hides a secret, every silence speaks volumes, and Ratchel Martha's story is carved into the dark heart of forgotten history. Her frozen childhood, a symptom of a world where power is preserved by erasing the uncomfortable, where truth is sacrificed on the altar of control, and the line between myth and reality blurs into a shadowy realm few dare to explore. The house where she lived was a crucible of despair, a place where time fractured and twisted, where the boundaries between life and death, reality and nightmare, grew thin and dangerous. And the family's descent was not a random tragedy, but a calculated unraveling, orchestrated by forces that thrive on fear and obedience, their minds shattered as if to warn others away. The doctors who fled, the vanished visitors, the town's collective silence. They were all pieces of a larger design, a system that manipulates memory and suppresses anomalies to maintain a fragile order. Ratchel's existence threatened that order, and so she was erased, her story silenced, her truth locked away behind walls that bleed secrets. But the price of silence is high, because hidden truths never stay buried, and the darkness waiting behind Ratchel Martha's frozen eyes is not just a tale of lost innocence, but a glimpse into a corruption so ancient and powerful it can change the course of history and the fate of any man brave enough to uncover it. Look beyond the surface, and Ratchel Martha becomes a symbol, a mirror reflecting the fractured reality we live in, where the truths that threaten power are buried beneath layers of denial, where psychological control systems keep masses obedient and unaware, and where ancient corruption seeps into the foundations of society, invisible yet omnipresent, shaping history in shadows. Her frozen form is more than an anomaly. It's a message, a warning from a past we refuse to acknowledge, a reminder that some secrets are so potent they can freeze time itself, halting not just a child's growth, but the progress of understanding, knowledge deliberately stalled to keep humanity in chains of ignorance and fear. This manipulation isn't limited to one family or one story. It's woven into the very fabric of our civilization, hidden agendas controlling what we see and believe, suppressing truths that would empower individuals and threaten those who profit from control. And Ratchel Martha's tale is one thread in this vast web of silence and suppression. To know this is to carry a burden, an awakening to the fact that history is not neutral, that knowledge is a battlefield, and that every hidden truth you uncover chips away at the foundations of a system built on lies. So as you listen, prepare yourself, because the descent into forbidden knowledge is not for the faint of heart or the weak of will. The family's torment was not just psychological, but metaphysical, a collision between natural law and something ancient, unseen and malevolent. Ratchel Martha was both victim and vessel, a living paradox trapped in a cycle that defied death, yet imprisoned her in eternal childhood. The house around her became a liminal space, a threshold where reality bent and twisted, breaking the minds of those who lived within and disturbing the fabric of the world outside. The townspeople's avoidance was more than fear. It was survival, an unspoken agreement to ignore the impossible to preserve what little normalcy remained. But ignoring darkness never makes it disappear. It festers, grows, and sometimes reaches beyond its confines, And that reaching is why Ratchel's story was never allowed to be studied, why science recoiled and institutions closed ranks. This is the nature of forbidden knowledge, powerful, dangerous, and contagious. Those who dare to uncover it risk more than disbelief or ridicule. They risk being consumed by the very forces they seek to understand. And Ratchel Martha's frozen gaze is a warning to those who would pry too deeply, to those willing to confront the shadows hidden in plain sight. If you continue on this path, understand that you are crossing a line, a point of no return where the truths you seek may change you irrevocably, where the price of knowledge is measured not just in facts, but in the toll it takes on your mind, your soul, and your place in a world that prefers darkness to be kept in silence. The refusal to examine Ratchel Martha was more than medical caution. It was a collective act of self-preservation by an entire society unwilling to confront a truth that shattered their understanding of existence. Doctors, scholars, and officials turned away. Not because they lacked curiosity, but because some knowledge is too dangerous, too disruptive to the fragile order of things, and they understood that probing too deeply could awaken forces beyond control. This silence was enforced not just by fear, but by an unspoken pact between those in power, a pact to keep the anomalous hidden, the inconvenient erased, and the terrifying dismissed as myth. Ratchel's case became a ghost story whispered in shadows, a chilling reminder of what lies beneath the surface of history, the cracks where reality and nightmare bleed together. The psychological control systems at work here are subtle but powerful. They shape perceptions, dictate what is studied and what is ignored, creating a reality tailored to keep the masses compliant and unaware. And Ratchel Martha's frozen existence exposed a fracture in that reality, a fault line threatening to collapse the carefully constructed facade of progress and reason. To acknowledge her story is to acknowledge that the world is far stranger and darker than we are led to believe, that beneath the surface of science and civilization lies a hidden war over knowledge, a war fought in silence and shadows. And Ratchel Martha stands at the center of that war, a symbol of forbidden truth and the heavy price it demands. Every secret carries a weight, and Ratchel Martha's is one that crushes those who bear it. The burden of knowing that time itself can be arrested, that life can be held hostage by forces beyond comprehension. This knowledge shifts the foundation of reality and challenges the comfort of accepted truths, forcing a reckoning with the shadows lurking just beyond perception. Her story is a stark reminder that history is not a neutral chronicle, but a battlefield of narratives where some truths are buried deliberately to protect power and control, and those who carry forbidden knowledge become targets, ostracized, silenced, or lost to the shadows themselves. This is why her existence was erased, why her family was broken, and why the world looked away. But the darkness that held Ratchel captive is not bound by time or place. It lives in the cracks of every society, in the shadows behind every institution, feeding on ignorance and fear. And the psychological control it exerts is the most insidious form of slavery, chaining minds to false realities and preventing awakening. To follow Ratchel Martha's story is to step into that darkness willingly, to confront the forces that shape our world in unseen ways, and to accept that the path to truth is perilous and lonely. Yet it is also the path to true power, the power that comes from seeing beyond illusions and claiming mastery over one's own destiny. The deeper you go, the more you realize that Ratchel Martha's story is entwined with the darkest threads of institutional manipulation, where not only is truth suppressed but rewritten to serve agendas far beyond the individual. Her frozen existence was inconvenient, a crack in the facade of progress and science. And so the architects of power conspired to erase her, to bury her beneath layers of denial and disinformation. This is how history is controlled, not just by what is taught, but by what is omitted. The stories deemed too dangerous or disruptive are locked away, removed from collective memory to keep the masses compliant and the elite unchallenged. Ratchel's case exposes the fragility of the narratives we trust, showing how easily they can be bent or broken when confronted with the truly inexplicable. The psychological systems at play here are designed to maintain order through ignorance, using fear, doubt, and distraction to prevent the spread of forbidden knowledge. And Ratchel Martha's silence was enforced as much by societal pressure as by supernatural dread. Her story became a warning carved in invisibility, a testament to the power of silence as a tool of control. But for those willing to see, her frozen gaze is a beacon, illuminating the cracks in our understanding, inviting the brave to confront the darkness behind the curtain, to question everything, and to recognize that true mastery begins with facing the uncomfortable truths hidden in the shadows of history. Ratchel Martha's story reveals a pattern repeated throughout history. Anomalies that disrupt the accepted order are marginalized, silenced, and erased. The architects of power recognize that knowledge is power, and they wield control over truth like a weapon, deciding which stories live and which are condemned to oblivion, ensuring the masses remain unaware and manageable. This manipulation extends beyond the realm of science and history. It infiltrates culture, education, and media, shaping collective perception to enforce conformity and obedience. The case of Ratchel Martha is a prime example of this psychological control system at work, where the refusal to acknowledge her existence was a strategic move to maintain the status quo. Yet beneath the surface, the suppressed truths persist like embers in the dark, waiting for someone to rekindle them. And every time the story resurfaces, through whispers, legends, or forbidden texts, it threatens to unravel the carefully woven tapestry of lies, challenging the foundations of authority and control. By embracing this knowledge, you step into a lineage of seekers and rebels, those who reject the comfortable illusions and dare to face the unsettling realities hidden beneath. But beware. The path of truth is perilous, lined with deception, betrayal, and the constant threat of being silenced. Yet it is also the path to true freedom and power. The deeper you peer into Ratchel Martha's story, the clearer it becomes that her frozen state was not a mere accident of nature, but a symptom of a larger, far more sinister force at work, an ancient corruption woven into the fabric of society itself. This corruption thrives on secrecy and fear, manipulating minds and twisting reality to maintain control over the masses, keeping the truth locked away in shadows. Her family's destruction was no random tragedy, but part of a calculated effort to contain and suppress knowledge that could dismantle the established order. The psychological torment they endured reflects the broader mechanisms of control that operate silently, invisibly, shaping human behavior and perception without consent or awareness. Ratchel Martha's tale is a window into this hidden war, a battle for truth fought not with weapons, but with silence and manipulation, where those who seek forbidden knowledge risk everything, facing not only disbelief and ridicule, but threats far darker, from entities that operate beyond human understanding to institutions determined to maintain their power at any cost. This is the chilling reality behind many forgotten legends and erased histories. The price of uncovering the truth is high, and the forces arrayed against it are relentless. So as you walk this path, remember that knowledge is both a weapon and a shield, and wield it wisely if you wish to survive what lies ahead. There is a hidden architecture beneath our world, an invisible network of power and control that shapes what we see, what we believe, and what we are allowed to know. Ratchel Martha's story is a fissure in that architecture, a crack exposing the fragility of the constructed reality, revealing how easily the truth can be manipulated or erased when it threatens those who pull the strings behind the scenes. Her frozen childhood challenges the very nature of time and existence, suggesting the presence of forces that bend reality itself. Forces that institutions fear because acknowledging them would shatter their authority and unravel the comfortable narratives that keep society orderly. This is why her story was never officially documented, why the doctors fled, and why the town looked away. This manipulation is not accidental but deliberate, a calculated effort to maintain psychological control through selective knowledge, keeping the masses confined within narrow boundaries of understanding, while the elite guard forbidden knowledge jealously. Ratchel Martha stands as a symbol of resistance against this control, a reminder that some truths refuse to be silenced forever. To embrace her story is to accept the responsibility of awareness, to carry the burden of knowledge that can unsettle and empower in equal measure, and to walk a path fraught with danger but illuminated by the potential for true mastery over one's own mind and destiny. The silence that surrounds Ratchel Martha is not a void but a force, a deliberate mechanism designed to contain and suppress, wielded by those who understand the peril of forbidden knowledge. This silence is a weapon, a psychological prison that traps truth and those who seek it, enforcing compliance through fear and isolation. Her frozen form is more than a medical mystery. It is a symbol of knowledge arrested, life paused to keep dangerous secrets hidden from the world, and the family's collapse under that weight is a testament to the human cost of confronting what should remain unseen. The house where she lived became a nexus of despair, where time warped and reality twisted into something unrecognizable. Institutions, whether scientific, political, or social, act as gatekeepers of this silence, deciding what is studied, what is remembered, and what is erased. Their power rooted in controlling narrative and perception. And Ratchel Martha's story is a casualty in this war, a truth too potent to be allowed freedom, buried beneath layers of denial and misinformation. But silence can only hold for so long, and the cracks in the facade are widening. Whispers grow louder, and those who dare to seek the forbidden are rising, ready to challenge the darkness that guards these secrets and to reclaim the power that comes with awakening to the deeper realities hidden beneath history's surface. The deeper you descend into the legend of Ratchel Martha, the more you uncover the vast machinery of suppression working tirelessly to keep her story buried. This machinery is not just physical, but psychological. A web spun to ensnare minds, bending perception and enforcing silence through fear and confusion, designed to prevent awakening and preserve control. Her existence is a wound in the fabric of accepted reality, a persistent anomaly that challenges the foundations of science and history, and for that reason, it was erased, dismissed, and condemned to myth. Yet myths hold power. They are echoes of suppressed truths, waiting to be uncovered, to be wielded by those with the courage to face the darkness. The family's destruction was a microcosm of this larger battle, their descent into madness a warning of the cost paid when forbidden knowledge surfaces. But it also reveals the resilience of truth, because no matter how deeply it is buried, it will find a way to rise, and those who hear Ratchel Martha's story are called to become the bearers of that rising, the warriors of awareness in a world of shadows. So steel yourself, for the path ahead is perilous and fraught with deception, but the rewards are beyond measure: mastery over self, clarity beyond illusion, and a glimpse into the ancient corruption that still pulls the strings of our world unseen. Ratchel Martha's story is a map to a hidden reality, a reality where time fractures and corruption reigns, where the rules of life are rewritten by forces ancient and unseen. This reality is carefully concealed by layers of manipulation, where those who seek to expose it face not only disbelief, but active resistance from institutions that thrive on ignorance and obedience. Her frozen existence is a beacon in the dark, a signpost marking the boundary between the known and the forbidden. And the family's unraveling is a testament to the devastating power of this hidden world, a power that shatters minds and rewires souls, a power that demands silence and submission as the price for survival. This is the true horror behind the myth, the realization that the world you think you know is a construct, a fragile illusion maintained by those who control knowledge and suppress the anomalies that threaten their authority. And Ratchel Martha stands as both a victim and a warning, a symbol of the price paid for awakening to these dangerous truths. But awakening is inevitable for some. And for those who hear her story and choose to embrace the darkness within, the journey will be transformative, challenging everything you thought you knew, and forging a new path through the shadows toward true mastery and understanding. Ratchel Martha's frozen gaze holds a mirror to your own soul, reflecting the fractures within and the shadows lurking just beyond your perception. Her story is not distant folklore, but a living warning, an invitation to confront the unseen forces that shape your reality and the hidden agendas that control the flow of knowledge and power. Every step deeper into her tale is a step away from comfortable ignorance, a descent into a world where truths are weaponized and silence is the deadliest prison, where ancient corruption seeps through institutions designed to protect but often serve to manipulate and deceive. And where the line between friend and foe blurs into shadow, the psychological control systems at play are subtle yet pervasive, bending minds and wills with invisible chains, enforcing compliance through fear, doubt, and distraction. And Ratchel Martha's story pierces through this veil, offering a glimpse of what lies beyond. If you dare to see it, to carry this knowledge is to accept the burden of awareness, to step into a role few are willing to claim, and to prepare for a transformation that will challenge your very essence. Because once you cross this threshold, there is no turning back, only the path forward through darkness toward true power. This is the moment where the story ends, but your journey truly begins. Ratchel Martha's frozen time is a symbol of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of history, of the ancient corruption that manipulates knowledge and reality, and of the power held by those who dare to seek the forbidden. Her silent gaze a challenge to all who listen to confront the shadows within and without. You have seen what others refuse to see, heard what others refuse to hear, and now you carry the weight of forbidden truth, a burden that can break the weak but forge the strong. The path ahead is perilous and shrouded in uncertainty, but it is also the path to mastery, awakening, and ultimate freedom from the chains of ignorance and control. Remember this: knowledge is power, but it is also responsibility. And those who hold dangerous truths must wield them with courage, wisdom, and unwavering resolve. Ratchel Martha's story is a beacon for those who walk in darkness, a guide for the brave who choose to uncover the hidden forces shaping our world, and a warning that some doors once opened change a man forever. Now go forth with eyes wide open, for you have stepped beyond the veil, and there is no turning back. The darkness welcomes you, but only the worthy will endure and rise.